From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by my broadcast partner over the phone. By the way, before we introduce him, I just want to get a really special word of thanks in to my new friend Dan, who's on the other side of the glass. He just gave me the rock on sign just moments ago. Dan's been here only a few weeks, and I have already seen this young man turn out to be a diligent, tireless, and very hard worker. By the way, Rosemary Furno, who also does a ton of work over here at the station, is also on the other side of the glass, and she gave me double thumbs up. Rosemary is the one that is behind the scenes for. Let me start over again. Soul Food TV. She's also behind the scenes for In Honor Of. She's also behind the scenes for Island Hop. And she has been busting her tail to try and get all of these shows in working order. Let's say thanks to both Dan and Ro on the other side of the glass for doing such a tremendous job. And as we speak, Ro is mocking me, giving me the crying sign moments ago. Thank you again. Thank you again. Now, Dan, we can bring Hector onto the show. All you got to do is bring up the volume for the telephone. And my guess is that Hector's probably sleeping on the other line.
No, I am not sleeping. I am throwing up from all that spution of venom that you just ventured.
Oh, you are such a knucklehead. You know that?
This is the hardest.
Leave it to you to always have to rain on everybody else's parade.
Your time. Now let me speak, please. Now, let me introduce myself to those millions of people that are listening to me. This is the hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, who never steered anybody wrong and always tell the truth. Now, again, we have hardworking people at CTV, some that are there and some that are not there. Now, if we're talking about the upper management people, I'm sure they work hard in their own way, but they also have a tendency to go around the other way and have a tendency to stab you in the back. So let's try that. Let's give them some credit where credit is due, and let's give them the not so credit where credit has not been done, because they could do more. Now, as for sports,
are you done?
In the NFL, you picked in the NFL, right? That the Phillies. How did the Phillies come out?
You mean the Eagles?
The Eagles, yes.
You're so clueless. Anyway, let's recap what happened over the weekend in the NFL. Excuse me. Starting with Eagles and Saints in New Orleans, which was the quasi prime time game of Sunday. When you think about it, overall, the Eagles really were the better team, because not only did they come up with a way to game plan against Drew Brees, they also had a really strong passing attack from Nick Foles. But that was only for, I would say, about the first half of the game. Second half, the Saints really came from behind and did a tremendous job against Nick Foles. They forced him to make some really rather ghastly throws that, quite frankly, he had no business making. And for another Drew Brees once again showed that he is definitely on par for the Hall of Fame. Not only did he have a tremendous second half, he also got really crucial contributions from Alvin Kamara in the running game. So when you think about it, this was a tale of two halves. But I'll tell you what, even though the Saints came away the winner, the Saints were extremely lucky because...
How lucky were they?
They were so lucky that they wound up missing a field goal in the last 3 minutes or so of the game. The Eagles were inside the Saints' 30-yard line and were about to take the lead. But what happens? Alshon Jeffrey, who probably has two of the most sure hands that any receiver could be or could have in the NFL, winds up dropping a pass. The ball pops in the air and winds up in the arms of a defender, a Saints defender, and the game gets wrapped up right there.
So because of that one mistake, that one mistake, how was the game? I mean, I seen the game, and I thought it was pretty evenly played.
I would say from the second half on, it was evenly played, but the Eagles got touchdowns on each of their first two drives. We thought for sure that there was going to be another big upset in the making because the way Nick Foles was leading the offense down the field, it looked as if this could be a maybe 35, 38 to nothing blowout here. I mean, the Saints looked really bad offensively.
Well, let me ask you this then. If it was for that one play, the Eagles would have taken it.
If it had not been for that drop pass, I think the Eagles would have scored right there. They looked really, really sound. And it seemed like Foles was picking apart that Saints secondary the entire time. I mean, granted, he had his moments, in the second half where he didn't really throw the ball particularly well. That could be attributed to the Saint defense. I think they put in a little bit more of a rush on Foles than they did in the game earlier. But if it had not been for Jeffrey dropping that ball, I mean, it's easy to blame him because, quite frankly, he should have caught the ball. But overall, the Saints, I think, were much better defensively. And there just comes a time for every contender when they need to have a little luck go their way. And that's how it went for the Saints. So now they move on to the NFC title game. They're going to host the NFC title game next Sunday night.
Well, let me ask you, because I noticed that when there's that one play they make a mistake, but, you still have 4 quarters.
Yeah.
And you have to rebound. If you don't rebound from that one thing, then you can say, well, this is the play that actually did what they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I get you on that. Now, they lost. The Eagles lost. And the other team won. Now, on the other side of the coin, who plays who now?
Well, now that the Saints won, they're going to play the Rams.
Now, the Rams, they won by, I think, 3 points, if I remember.
8.
8 points, I'm sorry. They won by 8 points.
Won by 8 points over the Cowboys.
Now, in your prediction from before, did you pick the Cowboys or did you pick the Rams?
I think I might have picked I picked the Cowboys in that game because I actually thought that the Cowboys could make more plays offensively than the Rams could.
Now,
shows how much I know.
Well, no. Let's go by the logic for a minute. If you said that the Cowboys had more of an offensive team than the Rams, what happened to this game that they did not show it? Because normally, statistically wise, they do have a better game. So what happened this time around? What was that play? Or were there many plays, or was it penalties?
Well, it's pretty simple when you think about it. The difference was the running game. The Rams torched the Cowboys on the ground over the weekend. If you look at how many times Ezekiel Elliott gets the ball, if he's not getting the ball more than 25 times in a game, the Cowboys have problems. On the other side of the ledger, the Rams have a damn good running back of their own, which is Todd Gurley. And he has, let's face facts, the kid has just shined the entire time ever since he made his debut 4 years ago.
Now, they just picked him up, right?
Gurley got drafted in 2015.
2015, but the Rams has been his team, or was he on a different team?
Gurley got drafted by the Rams when they were still in St. Louis. He's now been a Ram 4 years now.
Okay.
And as it turns out,
I thought he got.
No, Gurley's been a Ram since the beginning.
Okay.
And as it turns out, he wound up having a really good game, 115 yards on 16 carries. But then there was his sidekick, C.J. Anderson, a guy who was best known for his days with the Broncos. He's a really pudgy little kid, about 5'9" and maybe 200 pounds. C.J. Anderson had 123 yards and carries yesterday and also got a couple of touchdowns. Todd Gurley got a touchdown of his own. The Rams came away with over 200 yards on the ground. That is why they wound up winning this game. And this is also why, to bring the local side of it into focus, this is also why the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley last spring, because they needed that every down running back that they could give the ball to complement Eli Manning. And it's interesting how we see the NFL progressing with their passing game. Every team wants to get by on a really dangerous passing game. You can never, ever try and abandon the running game, because if you do, you're just going to look one-dimensional, and every team is going to expose you for it. And as it turns out, the Rams came away with over 260 yards of offense on the ground, that is. And what did the Cowboys have for their troubles? 50 yards rushing. That's the difference in the game.
Well, let's break it down. Defensively wise, did the Cowboys hold up?
Oh, they definitely held up. They stymied the running game. Not only that, but Dak Prescott, who usually can be counted on to make some really big plays, the Rams took away every single one of the big play opportunities that Prescott had.
And let's go by this way. So defensively wise, they did okay. Offensively wise, how were their numbers, the Cowboys, right now?
As far as total offense, Rams came away with 308 yards of offense, but I'd say maybe 250 of that was in the air. And that lets me know that the Cowboys did not give the ball enough to Ezekiel Elliott to try and make some plays for them. Bottom line is they did not feed him the ball enough in order to help them.
But then again, let's go by the old adage of what wins football games, offense or defense?
In this case, it was offense because it was the running game.
All right, then. So it's the Rams
and the Saints for the NFC title.
For the NFC title.
Yep.
Who's got the edge?
I still like New Orleans in this one.
Why?
You look at the first matchup that they had against each other. It looked like that was going to go down to the very final play, but then the Saints defensively came up with a couple of really big turnovers that were able to get them to that next level and to that victory. And I think this time, it's going to be the same situation, only defense is going to be the majority of the difference in the game, because the first time out, it was about a 48 to 45 score that the Saints wound up having. Here we are.
So let me ask you this. The Eagles,
First time out, it was 45 to 35.
45 to 35. Let me ask you this about the Eagles for a moment.
Yep.
Should they go back with Foles or Wentz?
That is a terrific question. Having read some of the articles and commentary and opinions that a lot of these quote-unquote experts have been mentioning, they want to see the Eagles go with Carson Wentz. Because to be honest with you, as good as Nick Foles has played in the last 2 years with the Eagles, overall, you look at his entire body of work. In the 8 years that he's played in the NFL with the Eagles and with the Rams, and I think also with the Kansas City Chiefs as well, Foles has not had a great career whatsoever. I mean, he's been good in spots, and Eagles fans will always be grateful for him for winning that Super Bowl last year. But I think it may be time for the Eagles to cut a deal where they can trade Foles away and go with Carson Wentz as the everyday quarterback.
Why wouldn't you try to keep both?
Because Carson Wentz has a very checkered medical history. He can't stay healthy, whereas Nick Foles will be right there to try and pick up the slack like he's done for the last 2 years.
But wouldn't you want him as a second quarterback?
That's the other problem. Wentz is still a young guy, and Nick Foles is approaching his 30th birthday. How much longer can Nick Foles really keep up all of this magic where he just comes off the bench at like a white knight on a white horse and just wave that magic wand and suddenly come away with victories?
Well,
it's gotten to the point where somewhere down the line, this thing is going to end.
Well, like the old adage says, when a person's hot, you give them the ball. You know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. At that point in time, you don't fix something that's not broken because, like you said, that is a team. If they go by the young guy, he can learn from him. And learning from an old pro like him, now, unless he wants to go to a team and still think that he can be a number one quarterback still, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nick Foles wants to start.
So,
he only wants to start. He does not like being a backup much longer.
So, again, you're in a position where either they fight it out to see who's got the best yardage and so on, who can last longest. Because remember, right now it's a two quarterback system now. It's not a one quarterback because a lot of these quarterbacks, they're not getting hurt as before, but they're getting hurt enough that you need that number two quarterback very quickly. Because the Giants don't have that second quarterback. The Jets don't have that quarterback. How many teams have that second quarterback that they can rely on?
Not many.
And that's what, and even in the draft that's coming up now, there ain't that many coming up.
I only see maybe 2 that are maybe guaranteed first rounders. Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State, and if he's serious about declaring for the draft, Kyler Murray from Oklahoma.
So that's what you have. I mean, even the teams now, if you look at their roster, their number 2 quarterbacks, they're not all, the majority of them are not that well, I would say. I mean, they'll play 1 game, 2 games, but can they play for six games? Can they get you through what they have to do? Technically, that's what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
but realistically, it's a whole different ballgame. So that's another thing that you have to consider. I know the guy, if he wants to leave, then you're going to have to give him his walking papers and let him go to another team.
Well, all I know is he wants to start. And I can tell you right now, there are a whole bunch of teams who would love to have him be a starting quarterback. One place that I know of is Arizona. Another place possibly, Cincinnati. That's if they trade Andy Dalton. I would also consider maybe Oakland if they decide to trade Derek Carr. Maybe Washington if they decide to release Alex Smith after his leg injury.
Well, at this point in time, after the season's over, that's when it becomes a smorgasbord of, okay, ladies and gentlemen, now the game commences. Now the Game of Thrones commences now. Now we're going to see who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who's not the healthy guy, and also the salary cap, because everything has to do with money. It all boils down to money. Who can we keep? Who can we get rid of? Who can we draft? And so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you have these teams. I don't see them as strong as before. Have you noticed that the majority of the teams are not as strong when it comes to players? Is it me?
Are you talking about individually at skill positions or overall?
Overall, are the teams lacking those special people?
I will admit that there are certain teams that are not necessarily complete at skill positions, especially playoff teams. For example, you look at the teams that just got eliminated yesterday. The Eagles, they didn't really have that one groundbreaking running back that could maybe spell Nick Foles for a bit. The Cowboys, they did not have maybe a third receiver that they could get the ball to. I also didn't see them maybe use a fullback either. The Indianapolis Colts, you could definitely say that are a team that's lacking at a couple of positions. Even though they have Andrew Luck and also have a really decent running game and have T.Y. Hilton at receiver, offensive line and also front seven of the defense are a place where they got really, really exposed over the weekend by the Chiefs. And also,
the other problem that you have now, if you call it a problem, besides the Canadian Football League, you got the XFL coming along in 2020, which depletes more of the people that are out there playing football. Plus, the NFL is going to put on one more team, if I remember correctly.
The NFL wants to bring another team?
Was it you that told me that they were going to bring another team to the NFL, or was it?
They've been talking. There was a rumor that they might want to either have an expansion team in London or maybe move one of the teams out of their current city and maybe go to London. I even heard the Raiders might go to London for a year before they settle in Vegas.
So they're just moving around. They're not really trying to set up another team.
By the way, not only is the XFL making its return in 2020, there's also the Alliance of American Football, another spring league that is going to debut next month. All the games will be on CBS, and it's going to look really, really interesting.
How so?
Because for one, a lot of the teams are going to be bringing in guys with a real heavy NFL flavor. For example, Bill Polian, who used to be the general manager of the Colts and the Bills, he's practically running the whole league. And there's also Troy Polamalu, the former Steeler. He's going to take care of the players' side. And also Hines Ward of the Steelers, Justin Tuck of the Giants. They're also going to be advisors in this league. So they're really going to give these guys a chance to make their way and get a feel for the sport itself in the event that they want to make their way to the NFL.
What I wanted to ask you is, now that they have the new league coming out, do you know if any of the NFL owners are putting in other teams for that league?
Are any of the NFL owners?
Yes.
I don't see. I really don't see it. I think this might be independently owned and operated. The league itself is going to be run by an NFL guy, but the teams themselves, they're going to be independently owned and operated by other guys.
Because when the USFL came out, there were NFL owners in the USFL too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jerry Jones was one of them. He had one team in there and so on. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the same way. And do you think it'll be like a minor league system for them so that they can pick up players for the NFL?
Mm-hmm. Well, from what I understand, there's going to be 8 teams in this league. And they're going to debut next month, like we mentioned. And
Right.
CBS is going to be broadcasting a lot of these games.
And so they have everything set up.
Mm-hmm.
Is New York going to have a team? I'm sure.
I'm going to find that out for you right now because I'm actually on their website.
I'm sure most of the major cities are going to have their teams in there in some shape or form. Because
Unfortunately, there will not be a team here in the New York area.
Okay.
But I will tell you the places that will have teams.
Go ahead. Lay it on me.
It's Arizona, Atlanta, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, Orlando, Salt Lake City, Utah, San Antonio, Texas, and San Diego.
Okay, one more time because I want to ask you. Go ahead.
All right.
What was the first one?
Arizona.
Is that a football team? Is that a football state? You would say Arizona?
I think they're more along the lines of a college football state than a real NFL state. I mean, granted, they do have the Cardinals for the last 30 years, but the fan support there has been very lukewarm.
Okay.
There's also Atlanta.
Atlanta. Would you agree to that it's a football? I think to me it's more of a baseball, but
I actually think they're more along the lines of a University of Georgia football town than
so it's college.
any of the Atlanta teams that are there.
Okay, so 2 for colleges.
There's also Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay, that's more of a college place too.
Big time. There's also Memphis, which loves the University of Memphis.
So another college place.
There's also Orlando.
That's iffy.
I would
That
say
to
they
me
like
is an
more
iffy
Florida
state.
State and Florida than anything else.
But yeah, they're still a college team, but they're still a college state. But
Yep. There's also Salt Lake City.
I don't know. You
They
give me
love the
answer to
Jazz.
that.
They absolutely love the Jazz.
So they're more of a basketball team.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely a basketball town.
Okay. So far, all the states that you've mentioned that are going to have these teams are either colleges. They're built more for college,
Mm-hmm.
Why are they having it in those states? Because it's cheap?
In all likelihood, yeah. And there's another team in San Antonio too, home of the Spurs.
Well, San Antonio, I can see.
San Antonio loves football.
I could actually see.
They
even
love the
though they're
Spurs,
more
but
high
they equally
school,
love their
college,
football.
But they'll support their pro team too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They're-
There were
they're
rumors
so-
of an NFL team going to San Antonio for many years. There was the Raiders, there was the Saints.
And the last one was San Diego.
Yes.
San Diego,
I'm not sure if they'll ever replace the Chargers, but the fans of San Diego need their football fix somehow. So why not have it with a spring team?
yeah, I mean, if they could support it, sure, why not? But I'm talking about those other states. I don't know what they're thinking, and I'm sure if it's run well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll add more teams to it. They're bound to add more teams to it because they want to make money. It's all about making money.
Yep.
But all in all, so you have that league, then you got the XFL coming in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
How much is all of this going to deplete all the football action that you're getting?
I'll tell you right now, anybody who's a passionate football fan and is going to be in need of watching football after the NFL season ends, they will have no problem getting to see the AAF or the XFL.
I mean, you're going to get your fix, but how much? First, you don't know how good of a team it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how good they're going to be. And secondly, because of so many people playing football and so many teams out there, will it deplete the league? Because you're not going to have powerhouses like you used to before.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think in all? So you have 3 organizations. How long do they last? About 8 weeks?
My guess is that they're going to last at least about 14 weeks because they have to, with an 8-team league, they have to play each other twice, and then there's playoffs. My guess is that they're going to have 2 or 3 rounds of playoffs before they decide a champion. Now, as far as whether it depletes the league or not, it depends on the situation, because if you've got guys that are a little bit older and long in the tooth and they haven't been in the game that long, the rust is going to be there, and they're going to get exposed really, really quickly. At the same time, you're going to be seeing a lot of young kids that are going to be hungry, that are going to want to prove themselves in this game. So it really does depend on the situation. I will say one thing, though. There's one guy who, if they don't give him a chance to compete in this league, then it just goes to show that these guys really are spiteful and vindictive.
Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow's one. The other one is probably the most obvious.
Kaepernick.
Yes. Why not give Colin Kaepernick a shot, since the NFL is so lukewarm against the guy? Why not give him a chance to probably try out for the league? I mean, granted, it's been 2 years.
Controversial, again, as we stated before, for those people that think he's disrespecting the flag. Because I love when people say, he's not telling us why he's doing it, but he's telling you why he's doing it. And then you have the people that are going, well, why don't they let him in? Let him protest. He's not hurting anyone. So, it goes both ways. Each place has their own position. Or
So
should
true.
I say, each party has their own way of thinking. And that's their thinking that he's doing something wrong, is disrespectful, and he should do it some other time. Or, that he's doing the right thing and he's really not hurting anybody. He's just doing what he's doing. And there'll always be an argument with that. And now, will they do like they used to do and just keep the teams in the tunnel and then let them have the national anthem, and then after they finish, they let them all come out. That way there's no problem, there's no controversy, there's nothing.
It's a really good thing to ask. If they're smart and they don't want to bring any excuse me, any controversy to themselves, then definitely just broadcast the national anthem when they're in commercial. What's that?
Are people that hungry that do you think that it will succeed?
It has a chance to, because when you look at the markets that they're in, they have a chance to cater to a smaller market and not have to compete with the big boys.
Why wasn't the USFL? Why didn't that succeed, even though they had some really damn good players?
Why did it not succeed?
Yeah, why didn't it succeed?
The lawsuit that they had a lot to do with it. Only being awarded $1 is one thing. My guess is that the fact that they brought certain teams to NFL markets had a lot to do with it as well. For example, you had teams in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia team wound up moving to Baltimore. You had a team at the Meadowlands, a team in Boston, a team in L.A., a team in Houston. It may have been that they just were not able to compete with any of the NFL teams that were in their own markets.
Well, I got to tell you, did the Jets make the right decision so far?
Did the Jets make the right decision in regards to what?
In their head coaching position.
Yes, they did.
They picked the right coach.
Well, they definitely made the right decision in firing Todd Bowles, but getting Adam Gase ahead of Mike McCarthy, who was much more qualified, not thrilled with the move at all. And everybody wants to talk about him being a mentor to certain quarterbacks. Let me tell you, Peyton Manning was long established in the league even before Adam Gase started to coach him on the Broncos. And the same thing with Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler was established in the league long before Adam Gase went to work with him. Jay Cutler was never the greatest quarterback or the greatest teammate for that matter. There's also the matter of working with Nick Saban. Nick Saban used to be Adam Gase's tutor on the coaching sidelines for 3 years. So the pedigree is there, but that doesn't necessarily translate into good results. I really wish that the Jets could have made more of a due diligence to convince Mike McCarthy to take the Jets job instead of taking the year off from coaching like McCarthy, as it turned out, chose to do.
Well, didn't he say he wanted to be a Jets head coach?
Did McCarthy say that?
Was it him or was it someone else that said, I'll only go to I will not go to any tryout for any other head coaching job unless it's the Jets.
That's interesting.
I'm trying to figure out if it was him or if it was someone else.
It had to have been someone else. And very rarely do you ever hear a coach say that. I will only coach the Jets and no one else. Usually that's the type of franchise that players and coaches want to avoid like the plague because of their checkered past.
Well, if they want to coach so badly and they don't, that means that they have a trust in that team that they can do something with it too. Mm-hmm. That's something that you also must consider, is that they're going to put a lot of effort into that as well. But all in all, right now, like I said, the Jets are at number 3.
Yep. They officially have the number 3 overall draft pick.
7? or 8th in the draft.
I think they're 7th or 8th. I'd have to look
But
at the
all in all,
draft
right
listings.
now, Giants keep Eli Manning. They still have to build the offensive line. Should any of the coaches go from the Giants?
Well, they just got here, so we really can't give them their walking papers that quickly before we could see what they could do for a second year.
And the reason why they picked this guy for the head coach job for the Jets, because he's good with the quarterback?
Yeah, supposedly he's had a history with really good quarterbacks. But let me tell you, Ryan Tannehill is not my idea of a good quarterback. Ryan Tannehill did nothing for the Dolphins for 7 years. That's not cutting it with me. And like I said before, Peyton Manning was long established in the NFL for 13 years before Adam Gase got to work with him. The same thing with Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler had long been an established veteran before Adam Gase got to work with him. No rhyme or reason to think that Adam Gase was going to be any different under working with Jay Cutler, I should say.
So I'm wondering if it was the money. I wonder why Jets management picked him, because you have experienced coaches out there, and yet somehow or another they'll pick. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but you always wonder in your head why. What is it that he said or he did or do to deserve
He
that
must have
position?
he must have really wowed them in the he must have really wowed them in the interviews before anything else, because usually when it comes to scoring on an interview, it's something that the guy says or does, or the guy's vision for the team and for the franchise in general, which is what sways owners over.
Let me take you to another topic for a moment, and that is, so who's going to win the Super Bowl? Your prediction is?
Well, still like New Orleans coming out of the NFC.
Because of the offensive or defensive?
Quite frankly, I think that the Saints are slightly better defensively than the Rams are.
Do you think it's going to be won by a kick, by a field goal, or do you think, what's the point on that?
There's really no way of telling.
By 7?
There's really no way of telling, but it's a matter of what defense makes the big stop. I think the Saints have a couple more playmakers defensively than the Rams do. Not only that, but Alvin Kamara at running back for the Saints has just been dynamite this entire season. And I think Kamara is going to be the difference in this game, and I think the Saints win by 10.
Okay. Let's jump to the Yankees for a moment, because I'm hearing that the Yankees have picked up a couple of people.
Yes, they did. They've been keeping themselves really, really busy during this offseason.
Just like the Mets.
Just like the Mets. And they didn't need to sign a major, major player in order to stay busy. I mean, you look at what the Yankees have done in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks or so. Not only have they re-signed Jay Happ, they also made the deal to get James Paxton from the Mariners. And just recently, they wound up signing Troy Tulowitzki, re-signed Zach Britton, and also they wound up signing DJ LeMahieu, the second baseman.
And 2 of them are risk.
Yeah.
And they signed Craig Bird as well.
Yeah, Greg Bird got a new deal to avoid arbitration.
And right now, do they still need or are they still needing pitching?
Oh, they definitely need pitching, especially in the bullpen.
So you think they'll sign one or two more players there?
Quite possibly. It would do them justice if they did sign a big guy to help them out in the back end of the bullpen.
I see a headline that says after signing Lemieux, the Yankees won't pay for Machado, and I'm hearing that the White Sox and Phillies are of 8 years.
Yeah. Those are the teams that are hot for Manny Machado right now. It seems like like they're going back and forth who the big team is that's going to get Machado. One moment it's the Phillies, another moment it's the White Sox, and on and on.
And the Yankees, they always say the Yankees come swooping in after the dust is cleared. Don't leave the Yankees out. Now, my biggest problem is the Mets because they should be opening up their pockets for Bryce Harper or for Machado.
Those are two guys that could help the Mets out immensely. Specifically, Bryce Harper. The Mets have been needing a power-hitting outfielder for the better part of maybe 2 or 3 years.
I mean, he would compliment Cespedes.
Not only that, but can you imagine him with those two youngsters in the same outfield, Michael Conforto and also Brandon Nimmo? He would complement those two guys nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, unless the Mets are in cheap mode.
They've been in cheap mode for 5 years, man.
And I know, but I don't understand why this guy is proven. And unless they think that if they sign someone for long term, they think they're going to have another Bobby Bonilla.
Oh, brother. You know, not every outfielder or pitcher or infielder or catcher that they're going to come across is going to be Bobby Bonilla or Eddie Murray, I should say, or Brett Saberhagen or Vince Coleman. It doesn't work that way. They need to try and take a chance here. Besides, Bryce Harper is a once-in-a-generation talent that should never, ever be left to slip under the cracks.
I agree with you. Now, and again, here's the problem that you're having. 8 years, $100 million.
A little much. I mean, the money's okay. 8 years and $100 million, but my guess is that they're going to want about $200 to $300 million.
Or 10 years, $100 million.
At $10 million a year? Well, I don't know.
Plus, you got to consider the taxes that they're being taken out of and so on. But, again, with the Yankees, I don't know what's wrong with them, and I don't know what's wrong with the Mets. The Mets especially, because the Mets could really need more of a push than the Yankees, because the Yankees are somewhat established, more so than the Mets. But for some reason, the Yankees didn't hit. When it came to the Red Sox stopped them completely. So I don't know why, unless they need more lefty batters.
Unless the Yankees need more lefty batters, you mean?
The Yankees need more lefty batters. They're mostly a right-hand hitting team.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, if you keep the Yankees the way they are, they're a very good hitting team.
Yep.
If they hit, if they don't if Boston, let's say, comes around and shuts them down again, because Boston did an excellent job in shutting them down. They didn't hit at all. They couldn't pay for a hit.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the Mets, you're somewhat in the rebuilding stage because you have your main pitchers there. You have three of your main pitchers there, and you got decent hitters on your team. Why can't you bring a Bryce Harper there? That way he'll elevate he'll elevate people wanting to come there. They're saying that he may go back to Colorado. What do you say to that?
You're talking about Harper, though?
Yeah.
Well, Harper, I think, would fill a major hole that the Mets have, and that's a power-hitting outfielder. He would actually be a pretty good complement in the Yankees outfield, too. You put him in there with Aaron Judge and Aaron Hicks, then Harper would be the everyday right fielder, and that means that Giancarlo Stanton could be the everyday designated hitter, and that would mean that Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury and I think Clint Frazier would also be fattening up the bench and also fattening up their outfield rotation. They would go about 6 players deep.
Well, you would have to get rid of one of the outfielders. You would have to get rid of Ellsbury.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
You would have too many outfielders right there. I mean, I would love to see Bryce Harper here, but
good luck with that. But there's no chance now. There's no chance of him making his way to the Yankees. In fact, I don't think there's any chance of him making his way. I don't think there's any chance of Manny Machado making his way to the Yankees either. The Yankees didn't even so much as make him a contract offer.
I think by the way the Yankees do things, they're waiting for the dust to clear. And sometimes they'll just swoop in and go, okay, let's say the White Sox come in there and say, we're going to give you 8 years for this amount, let's say for $90 million, let's say, just for the heck of it. All right, so the Yankees will probably go, okay, we'll give you 9 years for 100.
9 years is way too much.
I'm just saying that's the way they're playing. That's the way the game is played. Because they go by numbers and they go by how much can he win you now. And then when it comes to later on, they'll figure it out later. But since they want to win now, they're willing to pay for the 6 years, let's say, the 6 good years that he'll give you now and the 3 years that he may give you later on. That's how it's done. That's the way.
Yeah.
That's the way you got to open up your mind to. I think Bryce Harper would be better with the Mets. I think Machado would be better with the Mets as well. But if he wants to go to the Yankees, because both of them want to play for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if, like I said before, if the dust is going to clear, will the Yankees make that last-minute offer going, you know what, we're going to match it, and that's it?
I just don't see it.
Well,
after making those moves on the infield the way that they did, there's no way the Yankees will try and engage Harper in any more talks.
Well, Harper, no, but what about Machado?
Machado, neither. There's no way that they're going to do that. I mean, after signing 2 guys for their infield, what's the sense?
Because they can always get rid of one very quickly.
Now, how are they going to get rid of a guy that they just signed?
They've done it before.
Yeah, but not recently.
It hasn't been done before. If they have a chance of signing him, then they'll make a trade or something of that nature. And if they didn't sign the guy for a big amount of money, they'll just go, here, take the money and run.
That's just bad. That's bad management. That's bad management like that. You cannot run a team in that way.
Money, and it's a question of you're getting a better player, and let's say they'll pay me. They get me out on the cheap, $500,000 for 1 year, or for 2. That's a drop in the bucket for them.
It's awful management.
So they're willing to give up.
They can't do it. They can't work that way.
They're willing to drop that play.
They can't work that way where they sign a guy and just discard them just for a quick fix. They can't do that.
But you never know. That things have happened that way. Now, the Brooklyn Nets, they've been playing well lately.
Yeah, so much that they've raised their way to 7th place in the Eastern Conference playoff race. Like, what the hell is going on here? Are there any pigs flying in the air in Brooklyn? Are there locusts like touching down onto the roof of the Barclays Center? What's going on here?
Well, I can tell you this much, and what some of the announcers have been saying, and that is that the Nets actually have a very good team. They're not bad. It's just that, do they need that extra player that can put them over? Will the free agents that are out there, will they want to play for the Nets now? That's the thing that you have to consider, because they have a boatload of money, salary cap wise as well.
One thing that I've learned about free agency, especially in the NBA, is that I have never, ever heard any superstar say the words, "I want to play for fill in the blank," and then that blank is filled by the Nets or the Knicks.
I've heard people say that they want to play for the Knicks. I haven't heard them say so much they want to play for the Knicks, except for one person, Kyrie Irving.
Can you really take this guy's words at face value? This is also the same guy who told a group of kids that he was going to sign with the Celtics.
They said that they would. I'm not. That's by the grain of salt.
I can't believe anything he says, because he also said that he also told a group of kids that he was going to sign with the Celtics.
Lowell too.
The next thing you know, he's going to probably want to suit up for a CYO team for something.
I can tell you this much. Well, let me ask you something about the Knicks for a moment. They're 4th right now in the draft, right? Now,
I suppose
Zion
so.
Williams goes first. Who goes second? Barrett?
Probably R.J. Barrett, yeah.
Okay, he's second. Who's third?
Who's third? Well, let's see what we can do here.
Bol?
He would have gone third, but unfortunately, he wound up getting hurt and is now out for the rest of the season.
He's a big man. He's very lanky. He needs muscle. So any team that gets him has to fatten him up. And it's a foot problem, too. So big men that have foot problems are very injury prone when it comes to that.
Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, who, by the way, is the son of the former St. John's player, Rowan Barrett.
Okay, so who would be third?
My guess would be Jay Morant from Jay Morant would be my guess from Murray State.
And the fourth?
In all likelihood, it would be Keldon Johnson from Kentucky, another Kentucky kid.
Is he a guard?
He's a 6'6", 215-pound swingman. He goes between guard and forward.
Can the Knicks use a guy like that?
Well, I mean, they could, because they need a playmaker, but if anything, they're really more in need of a point guard than anybody else. And I just got the signal from Dan that unfortunately we've run out of time.
Go by how the order that you said it, and they stay at number 4, which I don't think they will. I think they'll probably go to number 3.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time, so we're going to have to bid you adieu.
All right. So adieu, my friend. I will see you next Monday until the end. Have a nice day. Have a nice winter. And let's see what happens in sports.
Okay. Thanks once again to Dan and Rosie on the other side of the glass, and of course to Hector
let's
over the
thank
phone.
you both.
And of course to Hector over the phone. For everyone
Yes,
here, I'm
thank you
Jamie.
too, Yes.
We will see you next Monday night. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.